Okay, we're called to order the Shasberry Select Board meeting for Monday, March 19th, 2018 at 6:30 PM. The first order of business will be the election of a chair for the Shasberry Select Board. Take nominations for chairman of the Select Board.
I nominate Tim Tragus.
Second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, 400. Mr. Scoggins is Select Board Chair, and I turn the meeting over to the chair.
All right, thank you, Dave. The second order of business is election of vice chair. Is there a nomination?
I nominate Art Woman.
Ken nominates Art Whitman,
Second.
second by Tony. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. So Art Whitman is elected vice chair by a vote of 400. Next up, we are required to adopt our rules and procedures for the select board. Those were circulated, and I need a nomination, a motion to approve the rules and procedures.
So moved.
Motion to approve the rules and procedures for the select board as circulated by Tony,
Second.
second by Ken. I would like to suggest an amendment to the rules and procedures. One of the things, let me find it here, where we set our schedule. Where'd it go? The time and place of all regular meetings shall be decided annually at the organizational meeting. That is now. We will get to that schedule in a minute. Annually, a legal notice should be placed in the paper of general circulation announcing regular meeting time and place. I'd like to amend that to say that the information will be made available to the public. I checked state statutes. We are not required any longer to put this in the paper. It probably cost us a couple $100 to put a legal notice in the paper. All that the state requires is that we provide it to the public. We can post it, we can put it on the website. Everybody knows we meet the first and third Mondays anyway. Can I get a second?
Second.
Second by Ken. Any more discussion on amending the rules and procedures?
Could I make a comment, or?
Yes.
I just really think it should always be in the paper, because there are some people that don't have a computer.
Okay. Any more discussion? All in favor of amending the select board rules and procedures as described, say aye.
Aye.
So the amendment passes by a vote of 400.
An amended copy is the copy I just passed down the table.
Okay, we still need to approve the rules and procedures as amended. So we approved the amendment. They are now amended, so we need a vote to approve the rules and procedures. Any more discussion on that point? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
So the rules and procedures for the select board are approved as amended by a vote of 400. And you said you have a copy for us to sign?
It should be right on top next to you there.
Oh, yeah. There it is. So Dave, if you will get me that PDF of the amended rules, I will put it up on the web.
Okay.
Okay, that's really all the housekeeping that we have to get done up front. There'll be more later on. I would, without objection like to change the schedule to put the treasurer's report before the Lake Perrin discussion? The treasurer's report will be short, the Lake Perrin discussion could be long. Is there any objection?
No objection.
Okay. Does any member of the board have a conflict of interest with anything appearing on the agenda this evening?
No.
Nope.
No.
No.
Okay. Approval of minutes. We have a basket full of minutes here to approve, starting with let's see, I guess we need to go back to February 26th, where we've been trying to get, oh no, this is,
No, we can't.
did we already do those? Tim, Tony, Ken, and Joe.
February 26th, we have not approved yet,
Okay,
because the next meeting was town meeting, so we didn't approve those.
okay, right. So, is there a motion to approve minutes for February 26th as circulated?
So moved.
Moved by
Second.
Tony, seconded by Joe. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. So the minutes for February 26th.
I will have to get you a copy of those two,
Okay.
that one,
All right. So those are approved. Well, I've actually got some here for 219 that were in the Dropbox.
Because 219 needs to be approved also.
Yeah, this is where we were trying to get Tim, Tony, and Joe to back together in the room. Okay. So, is there a motion to approve the minutes for February 19?
So moved.
Moved by Tony,
Second.
seconded by Ken. Any discussion? Present that night were Tim, Tony, and Joe.
Guess I gotta abstain.
Yeah.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. No, abstaining.
Abstain.
So the minutes for February 19th are approved by a vote of 301. The minutes for town meeting. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Tony,
Second.
second by Joe.
So only is 3.
Any discussion? I did make 1 or 2 minor, very minor typographical corrections to these. I can't even remember what they were. I think one place he said crown instead of crowd, something like that.
One question, Ken, because Joe wasn't there, can he second?
Right.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah. All that seconding means is he believes it's worthy of discussion. Any more discussion?
No.
All right, all in favor of approving the minutes for town meeting as circulated with minor typographical corrections, say aye.
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 Abstain.
You were there.
You were there. You
Town
had-
meeting?
Yeah. you
Yeah,
were
Joe
there.
was the one who
You
was
were
there.
there. I
So-
saw you.
Okay.
So
Joe
you-
wasn't
you
there.
approve?
Yeah.
Okay, so 3 yes, 0 no, 1 abstain.
We have a tape.
And 3-9. This was a special meeting for
Warrant, yeah.
opening the bids. It doesn't say who was there. Were we all there?
So,
No, Art was not there.
On 2-9?
On 3-9?
No.
3-9. Okay, Art was not there. You guys were all there?
I was there.
Okay. All right, do we have a motion to approve the minutes from 3-9?
So moved.
Moved by Tony,
second.
seconded by Ken. Discussion? Can I suggest that we amend those minutes to say that the 4 of us were there?
Joe, were you present at that
No,
meeting?
I don't think Joe was there.
No, the
Joe
three of you
wasn't
were at the
there.
meeting.
It was just us three,
Just us three?
yeah.
I know in my mind I was like,
It was during, because it was, yeah, it
Yeah, because
was
it was the middle of the afternoon.
middle of the afternoon, you were working.
Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor of approving the minutes for 3/9 as amended, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Abstain, no, abstaining?
I'm saying,
So those minutes are approved by a vote of 301. Okay. I think that takes care of the minutes. 2/9, 2/19. I'm just going to sign these for 319. The town meeting minutes, I will send you a copy of, like I say, a couple of minor corrections,
Okay.
and then the ones that we just
Okay.
amended. Okay, item 6, warrants. Looks like we just have the one warrant. Check warrant number 30 in the amount of $28,670.87.
So moved.
Motion to approve from Tony.
Second.
Second by Ken. Items over $1,000, 6,200 to Blue Cross Blue Shield, 1,200 to Bennington County Sheriff, 1,700 to GA Bow Fuels, 1,800 to GA Bow Fuels, 2,000 to LHS Associates.
That's election material balance thing.
$2,500 to William E. Daley, $6,900 to William E. Daley. Any more discussion? All in favor of approving check warrant number 30, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Check warrant number 30 in the amount of $28,670.87 is approved 400. Are there any announcements? Any public comments? Ed Corey.
I'm Ed Corey. This is my wife Margaret, my son Keith. Together our family is the K&E Partnership. We would like to speak on the unfairness, revengefulness, and vendetta-ness treatment our family has been given by the town because I asked building the new garage off Knowles Road not start until all local and state permits are granted, just as they expect anyone that applies to do. I lost 4 select boards, so I kept my promise to move. The first mail we got was this from the town of Shasberry. I said to my wife, this must be thank you from the town for all the hard work, building, and help we have given to the town. It was not. I'll read the letter. It was addressed to K&E Partnership, 47 Corey Drive. K&E Partnership, 47 Corey Drive, North Bennington Road. Reason parcel 13-12-72-16 Quarry Drive. Good morning. I have noticed that a shed has been placed on the above referred property without a permit, and that the property is used to sell equipment without a permit. These actions are a violation of the Town of Shasberry zoning bylaws. 3.3.2, no building or structures or portion therefore or a sign shall be erected, altered, or moved, and no land or building nor part therefore shall be used for any other than one listed as permitted or conditional use is permitted in this district which it is located. Please understand that if you fail to correct this violation within 7 days, a fine of up to $200 may be assessed each day if the violation continues. In default of payment of the fine, you shall be turn the matter over to the town attorney to institute, in the name of the municipality, any actions deemed appropriate by the municipality. Such court actions may be initiated in the appropriate Vermont court as provided in 24 VSA -1974A. Enclosed is a permit application, should you file the application to erect a shed and pursue the home occupation selling equipment within 7 days, I will not pursue issuing notice of zoning violation. Please note that the side yard setback for the VR zone, which your parcel is located, is 10 feet. Note also the home occupations are conditional uses and must be approved by the Development Review Board following a public hearing. There is a application and everything. I always thought that it was the property owner that got the violation notice, not us as the previous owners. How can you be violated on property you haven't owned since June 30th, 2017? And even worse, the violations, the building and everything existed since September 2017. Why would you wait until after the elections and we moved? It just seems so unfair. We don't own the property.
What did you tell me today about the
The zoning administrator came to me and she had noticed a shed on this property that didn't have a permit, and she asked if she should proceed with it, and I told her she should proceed with it. She would proceed with it.
But it's not-
It's a violation.
I don't own the lot.
So,
It's not my shed. We deeded that over June 30th.
Mr. Quarry, it was said to your partnership because that's one of the names that appears on the deed.
No,
It's been
no,
rectified.
you're
Sir,
incorrect. You're
sir,
incorrect.
Sir.
There's only 3 names that appear on that partnership.
It's been-
I can show you the court papers
It's
where
not the
that was
partnership.
dismissed.
It's not the partnership. It's been resolved as of today anyway, so it's a moot point.
It's not a moot point.
how was it resolved?
It was resolved because a permit was applied for today,
By,
the property owner.
which
I
is
believe-
not,
Who doesn't have anything to do with the partnership.
I'm not here to argue a partnership. It's a zoning violation.
all right, this is a zoning question which needs to be
It's a
taken
zoning
up with the
violation, and it was never even brought
zoning
before us.
administrator
I
and the
think
DRB
it's
if it
terrible.
gets to that point. So there's nothing that, nothing more I think that we can say about that. Thank you for your comments.
There, I do have one other comment. Keith? And by way of making a deal, I did come across, they call it a keyed eagle square. Very rare, made here in Shasberry, 1907. Slides together, pulls apart, can be put in a sleeve. I did have thoughts of donating it to the town, but the way they've treated me, himself, $33. I'm done.
All right, as we talked about, we're going to move the treasurer's report up to this point. Melanie?
there's a dismissal report. And you can see there's only 3 names on there.
Mr. Corey, this discussion does not need to take place. You're allowed to make your comments. You're not allowed to berate the town administrator during the meeting.
He can do it to me.
Melanie Dexter.
I wanted to take a couple of minutes before I do my reports to talk about Sullivan Powers. They're our external auditors, professional auditors. I think they've done a really great job, and I would be inclined to see whether we can just get a proposal from them for a 1 to 3 year or whatever term for them to become our external auditors moving forward, if that's appropriate. I'm the one who sort of works with them the most closely, and every year it gets a little easier and smoother, and you know, you've seen their reports, they're unimpeachable professionalism.
I think that's entirely appropriate. We from time to time, on no fixed schedule, rebid a lot of our contracts out again. It's been 3 years since we bid it.
Yep.
But it gets a little easier and a little quicker, right, every time, because they've learned our system.
Yeah, and we can anticipate what they're going to be asking for. You know, it's just, it's easy to work with them.
Didn't we approve that already?
We approved a 3-year contract, but
Oh,
this was the last of the 3 years. But
Okay.
I think what we're looking for is just the continuity of having basically
Yeah.
an assigned town
Yeah.
auditor. And
If you were to solicit others, when I weigh in, I'm going to say I hope we can continue to work with them. So it would be just more efficient maybe if we can.
Yeah, well, I mean, the first year, they're having you pull out all kinds of paperwork, learning the system here, and what little bit of money that we might save by bidding it out is probably lost in your time and Dave's time and having to bring somebody else up to speed. Is there a motion to, are you looking for another year or another
Well, I'd be
3-year
happy-
I
contract?
thought it was 3 years, right?
I'd say
Yeah.
3 if we.
Do they
if that's
like a 3-year
appropriate.
contract?
I think what we'd like is to be able to enter into discussion of what would work best for
Yeah.
both of us. 3-year cycles would definitely work best for us, I think.
Yeah,
And probably for their planning, because we can probably get a better discount for saying, hey, it's a 3-year cycle, this is what
Right.
we want to do.
Right.
You know, and they know it's going to be less time for them each time they come. And the first time there were like 2 or 3 of them coming, then down to Jordan coming.
Right.
Like Melanie said, you kind of know what to expect, and they know what they're coming into, and now they have tons of records up there, which just makes it easier.
Right, right.
So you need a motion, what, for a 3-year contract?
Yes.
I'll make a motion for the 3-year contract with the,
We have a motion from Ken to extend a 3-year contract to Sullivan and Powers for our external audit.
Second.
Seconded by Ken. Any more discussion?
None.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. So that motion is approved by a vote of 400.
Can we look at the February cash flow and
I
treasurer's
don't
report?
have it.
Oh, you
I
don't
just-
have it?
Oh, it was in the Dropbox this afternoon.
Yeah, and I didn't refresh this afternoon.
Oh.
I can fix that. I got the Dropbox right here.
It's just since I have not been at a meeting since February was complete, so I just want to make sure that we took a look at that. While you're finding it, I just wanted to say that as of some conversations I had in the last couple of months, it became apparent to me that some people are not really clear on what what the cash flow actually shows, because I rush through it every time. I just wanted to make the point that the cash flow section of my report is basically, it reflects the checking account statement every month. I just have it reorganized so you can see exactly what everything is. But that's only referring to exactly as it says cash. It's money in, it's money out. It's not it's not fancy accounting terms. It's not budget money. It's not guesses. It's cash.
Right.
So when you see, for example, up there, clerk revenue for February was indeed $3,912.05. That was cash in hand. Same thing with pay as you throw, all that stuff. That's the real, actual money. If you wanted to see the just projections for the budget and stuff, that's what I show at the very bottom of a completed month. So
Right.
that's where you see the projections. But the cash flow portion is all the money that went out in the form of payroll and checks for the most part, and then all the other stuff that comes in. So if you stayed there where you are on the budget status, you can see that we're still, this is the same pattern we've had for a couple of months, I think. Expenditures are running very slightly behind, but very similar to last year. So, you know, it's nothing alarming. Everything is going right along the way we expect.
Yeah. I'm coming to realize our budget's pretty simple, really, in terms of not having wild fluctuations from one year to the next.
Well, yeah, we hope not. Yeah, I mean, having it be following the usual expenditure curve is,
Yeah.
it's pretty much what you'd expect.
Okay, good.
So that's that. I can show you, if you've got March there, I can show you where we are for right now, although it's just a halfway point. So yeah, that's just sort of standard stuff unless you have any questions about any of that.
39,000 is a big number. What is that?
Oh, that's just when there's a due from, when that's money owed from a reserve account to the general fund. So that just
Okay.
means there had
Oh,
been
the
some
Class 3 road
checks
fund
written.
to the general fund.
Yeah, it's just a sort of an accounting correction to when money builds up.
Right. Okay. Good.
Any other questions about anything?
Okay. Thank you, Bill.
Okay.
All right, next up is the Shires Housing Lake Perrin Village. But before you do that, let me correct myself. I noticed a couple of public type faces. Did I leave anybody out of public comments who wanted to make a public comment? No? Okay, good. Then we'll go on. Stephanie Lane, Director of Shires Housing.
Hi, thank you.
And Shires Housing is planning a development in Shaftesbury in on Perrin Road near Perrin Acres. And Stephanie's here to talk about it.
Thank you so much. So I just wanted to give you a quick overview of Shires Housing and what we do. Our three primary lines of business are property management, real estate development, and the support and services at home program, which is a senior program that allows people with disabilities or who are seniors to stay in their home for as long as they would choose to. And the number of units developed within the past 2 years, we have redeveloped 152 units, and we currently have 24 entering new construction in the town of Bennington. We manage over 340 rental units in our portfolio right now throughout Bennington County, including wholly owned properties and 10 partnerships, and these are located in Bennington, Arlington, and Manchester. We are here today to ask for the Select Board's permission to open the VCDP grant application as an additional source for this project. We have applications in for 3 other funding sources currently, and VCDP is the Vermont Community Development Program, and it's offered to assist communities on a competitive basis by providing financial and technical assistance to address local needs and in part in the areas of housing and economic development. So the application is submitted through an online portal. It's called GEARS, and I think you're familiar with it because you've done planning grants and things like that. So we need, the municipality or the town is actually the applicant in this case. So we would need you to allow us into the system and to give us permission to write the grant and to send it back to you basically for submittal. The town actually does the submitting on our behalf.
Are you asking for town funds to do this?
No, we are not. No, these are funds that come through the towns, but they're administered by the state, and they actually originate with HUD, so they're CDBG funds that come through the state of Vermont and then are granted to the municipalities, and then typically the municipality will partner with a not-for-profit developer and receive the funds through the town in that way. If the town has any costs that it incurs as a result of this, as a result of being the applicant, if there are administrative costs or an additional cost in your audit for review or any other fees, it's covered by the grant funds as well. So just go through and just give you sort of an overview of the project itself. So the Lake Perrin Village project is a 22-unit mixed-income workforce housing development with a rent structure that's manageable to working families. So the income ranges for this project, it's really a pretty broad range, more so than on any of our other projects, I think. So just as for example, for a household of one, the max income would be $22,600 on some of the units, and we can go as high as $77,640 for a household of four on some of the units. It's a mixed income project in this case, and that's thanks to the Housing Revenue Bond funds, which allowed us to fund 4 of the units through that program as well. So we have a bit more of a mix than you would typically see with our projects on this one. And the rent ranges from very, very affordable at $550 to $1,098 for a 3-bedroom that serves a higher income bracket.
So they would have to qualify for that rent.
They would have to qualify for the income limit, and
Right.
then it's assigned, the rent is assigned according to the income limits on the individual unit. So if you were an individual who, say on the lower end of the income scale was making $22,600, that's about the 50% maximum limit for a household of one.
Right.
You would probably qualify for the 550 units. So we actually attach it to the units.
Okay.
So that is the site plan as it stands now. It has changed a little bit. For anyone that saw it about a year ago, it looks a little bit different. The main entrance is now on Perrin Road, not on McCarthy Acres. And you'll see the 22 units are split between 3 buildings, so 3 6-unit buildings and 1 4-unit building. We've reduced the number of parking spots down to the required 1.5 per unit rather than 2 per unit. It was a lot of parking. It wasn't very attractive. And it's really not necessary. It's overkill, and it saves us money on paving and infrastructure. So we have reduced that. You'll see there's a lot of planting around the site as well. It will be a very attractive site. You'll see some elevations soon on the next few slides, just to give you an idea of what the buildings may look like. And so it has changed slightly since the last time we were here.
Another change would be this well here too, right?
Yes, the location of a well in the center of the parcel. We have not received approval from the North Bennington Water Board for municipal access. So we are opting for a well at this point, and we're going to do that. And that placement of that well just maximized the site. So we have, that will be the conservation area in the darker green and the half circle. That will be conserved land permanently.
Is that gonna be on city sewer, or
I'm sorry?
is that gonna be on municipal sewer?
It is, through the town of Bennington. It's received approval for that.
Okay.
Town of Bennington? Not North Bennington?
No, town of Bennington. North Bennington would be the water. And with the issues that they're having in North Bennington, they're prioritizing their residents, which we understand, that makes sense. So, yeah, but the sewers through Bennington, and they have approved it at this point.
Are you still hopeful that you might get North Bennington water later on in the process?
We would much prefer to have access to municipal water, and we'll probably have a hookup for that for the future. For right now, this will keep the project in motion, and we're hoping that this works out. But if not, we want to have that municipal option as well. It would be preferable to being a public water system. Yeah.
Oops.
So next are just some elevations, so you can get an idea of what the buildings may look like.
Hang on a second. I am going to clear core here and reopen that. There they are.
There they are. So that would be the view from Perrin Road. So that's the front entrance. Jeff Goldstone is the architect on this, and he wanted to keep sort of a farmhouse feel to this and have the sister houses of a farmhouse. And just to keep that look, he looked through Shaftesbury, he looked at historic photos, and he wanted to incorporate that look into the project. It should look like it belongs here. It shouldn't stand out. It should be something that, you know, meets the character of this town and this neighborhood. So that's looking at the project from Perrin Road, looking south toward the lake. This is hard to read, but this looks like the same thing. It's building 1. Building 1 and 2 are basically twins, just flip-flop. They're mirror images of one another. So you see the next 2 are basically the same building. Both are 6-unit buildings and would be at the entrance. And that's the same again, but you see it's just flipped. This is another one. This is building 3. And on the site, that's the longer building toward the south end of the site, if you look at the site plan. It's a little bit tiered. Some of these may be tweaked a bit, you know, as we go through, but right now this is where we've landed right now. Jeff may recommend a little bit of tweaking depending on the site conditions and things that need to be improved. We may find ways to just save a little bit of money if we combine the 4 units, so. But for now,
Well, they don't look like the blocks that I lived in apartments complexes in Houston when I was fresh out of college. They look really nice.
Thank you. Yeah, we try to make sure that our housing looks as good as or better than whatever's in the neighborhood. It shouldn't stand out as affordable housing. It should just be housing. It should be attractive, and it should be quality, and it should be a good place for these residents to live. And that is building 4, and that's a 4-unit with one-bedroom units contained in it. So they look like houses. This is just some current projects that we've done recently. This is part of the Battenkill North project. This was a 22-unit rehab of existing, which is not for the faint of heart. It can be tough. We had to relocate tenants, and these are historic buildings, so we had to follow historic preservation. It included the Stafford Street and Star Crows firehouses, 3 buildings in Arlington, and the houses on Route 67, 1930, and 1956, Route 67 in Shaftesbury. So
Yeah, these
the
here.
left is a before, and then you see the finished product. We've just finished this. They're actually still installing mailboxes and doing some last-minute site work, but... you
Yeah,
see
Tony and I toured these.
I was impressed, very impressed.
Thank you.
Well, you have to gut it and start all over again. So.
Basically, yeah.
But they're, how old are those?
1900?
Yeah.
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 So we have an investment of about 900,000 into these 2
They're
buildings.
great apartments.
Yeah, they're really nice.
It's tricky. This was the Bennington Historic Rehab Project, very similar, 26-unit rehabilitation of existing, all historic, all scattered site, but all in Bennington. We did energy upgrades, siding, interior finishes. We installed a pellet boiler in the yellow building at 119 to 121 Pleasant Street. And that was completed last October, and they're holding up very well. They're beautiful.
So Stephanie, out of all the refurbishing of the houses and everything, who does that work for you?
It depends. We have a competitive bidding process. These last 2 projects, Naylor and Breen was the general contractor for both. They won the bid on this, but they hire local subs for these. We require that they hire local. So we had Hayden Plumbing on it. We had JTG Construction, Roy's Plumbing. So they use a lot of the locals that we use, Prue Electric.
It's good to know, good to
Yeah.
hear.
Yeah, we make sure, even the insurance is local now, we make sure that that stays here. It should produce as many jobs and keep people busy as much as possible here. Yeah. and the Applegate Apartments project. So we finished this one in the fall of 17. And this is located in the town of Bennington. We added a biomass plant to this and replaced 29 oil-burning boilers with a centralized wood chip boiler plant, which is the building with the silo attached to it. And it's now in the middle of Applegate if you drive through there. It's simply a building to house that boiler. It included energy efficiency upgrades, new siding, air sealing, and insulation for all of the 23 residential buildings that contain 104 family rental units. 6 were rehabbed to meet ADA compliance. And this was about an 18-month project, so we're very pleased. This was a great success. We met all of our energy goals on this one. And the site looks really good. And we're working on interiors now as well, so that's been a great success. This is just a little recap of investment that we've made through the projects and through our property management activities in the past. In 16 and 17, we've invested approximately $11.5 million in the local economy in the form of payments to vendors, local subcontractors, materials for maintenance, our property taxes, and we're estimating about $8 million for 2018. I think that was it.
How much, did we already say how much the Perrin project is?
It's a
What it cost?
$6.6 million project.
How much?
6.6.
6.6.
So one of my concerns with the project with 22 units, it's going to create more traffic on the road. And if I remember correctly, just going down the road, counting houses and people I know, there's not that many people that live on that road now. So
Yeah.
you're really gonna,
It will.
that dirt road's gonna get dug up quite.
I've got a couple more slides that's going to talk about the road. Before we get to the down and dirty, the chair of our planning commission, Chris Williams, is here, and I know that you also serve on the board at Shires Housing. Did you want to make some comments?
Well, I would just say that, this is the largest project that's on the horizon for Shaftesbury. This is an organization that's worked in the community of Bennington County for over 25 years. We're a known commodity. We have a good track record. We manage a lot of property. We're not amateurs. In fact, there's an element of hotshots in this organization. And, we've been on a tear over the last 2 years since Stephanie came on board building. And we've built a massive amount of units in the last 2 years, and 117, I think, in Applegate. I mean, that was a huge project, and we've completely revamped the heating infrastructure, and we just got tested by a pretty good winter, so it seems like it's worked. I would say this is an economic development project from your point of view, and the private sector is not building this kind of housing because profit margins are far too low to interest any private developer in this type of construction. And yet, our housing stock, our rental housing stock, is old and decrepit and has had no investments since after the war, basically. And so rental housing is pretty raggedy in this part of Bennington County. And we provide a private sector approach to housing in that this is money at risk, just as you would have with a private developer. This is not subsidized in any way. This is borrowed money at risk, and we take the same risks that any private developer would take. So, what Shires is asking you here is to act as the conduit to pass through money that originates from the U.S. Department of Agriculture Community Development block grants so that it comes through the state and onto Shires Housing to execute 22 new units in Shaftesbury.
Good, thank you.
Thank you, Tim.
Does this grant money, is it at a cheaper rate, or is it an advantage to you guys that an average landlord can't get?
Now, an average landlord can get this money, but they don't know how to do it. And it's, you know, it doesn't come from one pot. This is one of, what, 4 major funding sources on this
On this
project?
project, yeah.
Right, so we're working with these people and those people and these people, and our soft costs to do these projects are very high because we have multiple funding sources with multiple reporting requirements, and make sure that our profit margin is pretty low in these projects because the funding is pretty onerous, and it's very patchwork, you know. I mean, we used to have a housing program in this country, but that's long since flown away. And now it's just like remnants that you can scrape together to do a project with.
What concerns me is that as a town, we would be subsidizing someone or an organization that the average landlord didn't have access to or couldn't compete with. I talked to several landlords over the weekend, and they all tell me that they're hard to compete with you guys. You guys tend to get your organization tends to get I don't know if you call it upper crust or whatever, but they seem to get the leftovers, you might say. And it's very hard for the average landlord to compete with you guys.
That's 25 years of honing our model.
Right, and they have access to the funding that we do.
Oliver, did you have a comment?
The Shires, by its scale and the years of experience, has learned to deal with these funding thing in the most efficient way. And just by the sheer scale of what they do, they've become very good at it. And I appreciate what they do. I don't think your traffic is going to, how many cars come out of Parent Acres every morning and every evening? I don't think this is going to add a big percentage to the traffic flow. And most of it's going to go through North Bennington just because of the normal muddy road until we ever get a handle on that.
Mm-hmm. Were you wanting to make a comment?
Well,
I'm sorry, I don't remember your name.
My name is Tom Fields. I live in Parent Acres. I happen to be lucky enough to be president of the Parent Acres Homeowners Association right now.
Excellent.
And I know one of the concerns we have more than anything is the traffic. We have 75 homes in the Parent Acres development alone, not to mention McCarthy Acres, and the people who live on Parent Road. So the traffic has been a concern, and I don't think it's a secret that Parent Road years ago really should have been improved upon. I know Bob Maskeel at one time offered his services as an engineer to try to engineer Parent Road for the town of Shaftesbury to try to get the road at least dried so that it in storms and so forth, that the water left the highway so there weren't potholes. And if anybody's been down there even today, and my hat goes off to the guys from the highway department because they do the best they can down there, and they're down there quite a bit. There's been an apron added at the entrance to Parent Acres development that has really helped a lot. It's really displaced the potholes that were right in front of the entrance and put them on the edges of the new apron, but at least it's something that's a little easier for the drivers to maneuver. So again, I'm not politicizing this thing at all. I just wanted to bring a concern that we have is in the development. Because it's not only the people who live there, and as you know, 75 homes, there's at least 1.5 cars for every resident there. there's a significant amount of traffic between that and oil deliveries, building supply places, FedEx, UPS, and so forth. We all get that, no matter where we live, but that is just more traffic that's on Perrin Road that works against the quality of that highway all the time. This certainly looks like a great plan. And the entrance, the change coming onto Perrin Road from McCarthy Road is probably a good idea for safety reasons. I have a lifetime spent in the law enforcement business, so that's a key component of the way I think about things. But getting back to what I said right in the beginning, I think it's more about the quality of the road and how much time the town highway department have to spend trying to grade it several times a year, bring fill in the winter months. And once again, they do a terrific job. They have to use 2 different types of plows because Perrin Acres is paved. Perrin Road is gravel, so they do plowing with 2 different pieces of equipment. High in the sky would be a paved entrance all the way down to North Bennington. Get that section of Perrin Road paved, but this isn't a private project. It's some public money involved in it, so I can understand that probably could never happen. But at least I think a lot of the traffic would be funneled down North Bennington Way if that were to ever happen.
You know, I'm hoping that with the addition of this, that we would then attract some money, because that's such an expensive proposition. That road needs to be re-engineered, but we can't afford it at this point.
Oh, we understand.
Yeah, but I'm hoping that with this project there, that would then attract, and also with their help, would then attract some development and some solutions to that. There are some other options that are available, but you're basically built on a swamp. And, you know, that road probably should never have existed to begin with.
And I think Bob Maskill's idea was to try to engineer a way to get the water
Yeah,
out of that area.
Yeah.
Drainage somehow back into Perrin Creek and out
Yeah.
into the lake, whatever. But
but we
enough said,
want,
I just wanted to mention about that
yeah,
and the condition of the road.
yeah,
And there were times in the past when there were some concerns about getting firefighting equipment.
Yeah.
There, rescue squad equipment,
Sure.
law enforcement vehicles.
And how many times has that flooded?
You know, the town, the gentlemen all been here for a while, they've put the screen mesh product
Yeah.
on, that has helped quite a bit.
Yeah.
So over the years, they're better now than they've ever been, but they're horrible.
But it's
now.
horrible.
Well, thank you for saying that, because we don't get told often enough, the road crew doesn't get
No.
told
Oh
often
my
enough that
God,
they
we
work
made
hard.
cooked baked brownies, brought them down.
Oh, good, thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
It's a miracle we can get down that road. all the
Yeah.
time, so. But anyway, I just wanted to express the concerns of the residents
Thank
of
you.
Perrin Acres.
Yeah, we had a meeting the other day where we talked about the traffic study, and I was expecting a traffic study that was done to look at what this development would do to the traffic on Perrin Road. We can talk about that. I wanted to walk through just, when Stephanie sent me her presentation, I went through it and wrote down some thoughts. And there's certainly good things about this project, and there's worries that we have, like about the roads. But it does provide much needed workforce housing. And Ken, I can tell you, as you know, I spend a lot of my time going to meetings and study groups that are looking at the economy of this area. And the number one thing is attracting people to this area. And the number two thing is where are they going to live when they get here. So I can understand that somebody who's in the rental business would be worried if there was any new competition. But our state of rental housing now, and Chris reinforced this, is that there'll be plenty of people to rent, even if we get 22 units in that area. It attracts people to Shasberry, something that we need, people who could work in the nearby area. Like you said, this is workforce housing. The look of it is aesthetically pleasing, and it's in character with the neighborhood. And the thing that you got to not forget when you're talking about some of the downsides of this project is it brings $6 to $7 million into the tax base, and that gives us money that we can use to try and solve any problems that this project brings in. And in just looking at the numbers, that $6 or $7 million added to our grand list with our current 39-cent tax rate is another $23 $8,400 a year. So, I mean, there's a lot of ways you can think about it. You know, that's money that we could put, you know, $23,000 more worth of gravel on Perrin Road every year, which would help a lot. It's, if we thought we had a solution that could be solved with maybe $100,000 to fix Perrin Road, we could bond it out and pay it off in 5 years with that money, and then we would be dollars ahead from that point on. And to say nothing of the money that would go to the schools from this additional $6 or $7 million in the added to the grand list. The schools, currently that area is, it's in District 1. It's in the North Bennington School District. That district has school choice. Most of the kids there go to the North Bennington School. Some kids in that district come to the Shaftesbury School. I spoke with the principals at Shaftesbury Elementary and North Bennington, and they said, yes, we can certainly absorb a few more students. And the estimate is 6 additional students would come out of this project. And the principal at North Bennington actually sent me a document that I think was part of your application process on how many additional students would be put into the school district and could the school handle them. And he said, certainly we can.
Yes, yeah.
And I can tell you from all the time I spent at the Shaftesbury School Board meetings that the way the funding works, additional students, as long as you're not, you know, talking about 500 additional students, but a few more students, is a few more $15,000 bumps from the state. Because the way the funding works, sort of, because nobody really understands it, the money goes into a pool that comes back out at the rate of about $15,000 per student, and every one of those students extra that you have is good for the school. And in the years that I was attending a lot of school board meetings, a lot of the other schools were having more money problems than Shaftesbury School was having because they kept their population up where the other schools were losing students. The school is kind of a wild card because in a year where all the schools are going to be in a district, we don't know for sure what's going to happen with North Bennington, but there's a likelihood, a greater than zero likelihood, that they'll be in the same district and that tax money will go into the district pool, just like all of us pay into. And as I was saying, it's about the per student ratio of $15,000 per student comes back for each additional student. And then there's Perrin Road, which is kind of the downside of this. And I was hoping Jason was going to be here because I read the traffic study, but I didn't read it in enough detail to recite all the numbers. But the essential takeaway from the traffic study was Perrin Road has always been a problem. It's hard to maintain because it goes through a wetland. It gets a fair amount of traffic from Perrin Acres. Adding an additional traffic would put it up to what I believe the number was like 500 cars a day, is right at the first level of where they say it's starting to make sense to pave this road. So it doesn't say you have to pave it, but it's saying it's kind of at the bottom edge of, this is the bracket of traffic where you start thinking about paving. Paving is expensive. Jason provided some estimates. If we pave from where this project is going in south to North Bennington, we're looking at $100,000. If we wanted to pave the whole thing, because I imagine a lot of people who go to Perrin Acres come in from the north off of 7 to 67 and drive all the way down that dirt road. If you wanted to
Just
take...
about halfway, both. Either way,
Yeah.
when you leave Perrin Acres, it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. If you go to
Right.
North Bennington or Shaftesbury.
Right. Paving the whole thing would be $500,000, and we're just never going to be able to afford that.
I think Ken wins the lottery.
If Ken wins the lottery and gave us $500,000, we could think about it. But I
I'm
have a
buying
feeling
a
if
bigger
Ken won,
pontoon boat.
I have a feeling if Ken won the lottery, we'd never see him again.
Yeah.
But again, keep in mind that, there's upsides to this project, and if we want to figure out how to deal with the downsides, we've got, $23,000 a year to help us figure out ways to do this.
How many extra students did you think was coming out of that?
The official estimate is 6.
There are 8 one-bedroom units,
How many?
8 one-bedroom.
8?
So we don't anticipate children living in those units. Although we don't have a crystal ball, we think that's
Yeah.
about right based on what we see in Bennington, what we see from, Applegate, from Willowbrook, from Shires.
Sounds a little light, but
It might be.
I'm not about to argue with you over that.
And I can tell you, I firmly believe you double that number and say it was 12, and the schools would still welcome them with open arms, because
Yeah.
I know Shasberry is down, I believe the last I heard, they were down maybe 230 students, and they were at 240 in those years where I were there, and they were bragging about how that was helping them.
Used to be 350.
360.
And they have had upwards of 300 students there.
350.
350.
I think they were sitting on top of each other at that point, but they've got a lot more capacity than they're
I think if we exceeded 10, that would be a lot for this, but figure between 6 and 10. 6 may be on the low end, but between 6 and 10.
Can I ask of the 14 remaining units, how many bedrooms are in those?
We have 8 that are one bedroom, we have 4 that are 3 bedroom. So the other 10 are 2 bedroom.
Thanks.
And Stephanie, you said if we, decided that we needed some sort of traffic engineering study or something to try and figure out the road
Yeah, to
problem,
figure
that
out the best way to
you
address this
could
issue.
help us with that?
Yes, absolutely. We can include that as part of this project, and we think it makes sense because it will have an impact on
Yeah,
us. I mean, let's face it, we're going to
absolutely.
generate more traffic, so, we are going to have a percentage that we're responsible for.
Right.
So we had discussed that this might be the way that we do that, is through an engineering study. That-
How far did they move that entrance? So where it came, before you had it coming out on New McCarthy Road.
Right, now it's over
Now it's
on
coming
Perrin-
down on Perrin Road.
Perrin Road,
How
yeah.
far down from
Where
McCarthy
the
Road?
existing rice parcel is, one of the buildings would be close to where that is now, so just to the left of his parcel as you.
Ain't no scale on that, I see, Dave.
Here's the plan here. So here's the entrance.
Yeah, it's pretty close to McCarthy.
There's McCarthy right there.
Yeah.
But we don't think there's a site.
Well, I'm just wondering,
So is this an
Well, on a
entrance
scale,
off McCarthy
because-
here?
It is, it's a secondary.
McCarthy Road's pretty close, there's a little bit of a crowd in the road right there, a hill. And I'm just wondering if that entrance you got is far enough away from the top of the hill for a sight distance.
Oh, for site distance?
Jason had said that it was moved down.
Yeah.
That driveway is the approximate driveway that's there now, I
Right,
believe he said.
exactly.
So where that driveway is to the house there is approximately where this driveway is. And the sightline is vastly improved from
Yeah,
when they would
yeah,
have
'cause
come
I
down
mean,
McCarthy Acres.
If they get coming down that road 50 miles an hour, you clear that pretty quick.
In the traffic survey they had discussed that, and how it's a better sightline now. The question was really volume.
Yeah, because that was mine originally, on McCarthy Road. It's
Right.
bad enough now, but you add 22
Yeah,
units
it
in
was,
there,
right.
and someone's gonna get nailed.
Yeah, that's why we thought that made more sense.
That home that exists on Perrin Road,
Yes.
that is west McCarthy, is that all going to be part of the development? Okay, so that's the area that you're talking about, Ken, where the entrance would be?
Well, originally, when they originally designed this,
Right.
they were gonna come out of their development, go on to McCarthy Road, and then come out, and which would have changed, as far as I'm concerned, that whole thing would have had to been changed. Because it wasn't gonna handle those traffic.
Right.
Now, one thing that came up in our meeting with Jason, and it's a really intriguing idea, is if you look at the view here of especially this northern part of Perrin Road, which goes through wetlands, as we see here, entrance up here, we go through half a mile. All these people going to Perrin Acres are driving through half a mile with 3 or 4 houses along here. And you get down to here, and you can't help but notice that That's not a very long distance right there. And we started to wonder, what if, instead of entering Perrin Road here, you enter Perrin Road here? And we could, get people from 67 into Perrin Acres on all pavement, and get all of this traffic off of this really hard to maintain part of this road here, where it's wet, where there's really not very many houses, and instead of having all of these 100 people drive all this distance, we could let these 4 people drive that distance right there.
Still, the railroad tracks contend with, I'm not sure where Dr. Peck's house is that you're referring to there.
Yeah, I'm not either, but I'm just saying, from this 10,000 foot view, this is a stupid road. Why we're funneling all of these people through this swamp here when we can get them home here.
I think you gotta look at the engineering involved in that, because
Absolutely.
railroad track, you're gonna have 15-foot clearance, if not more. And I don't think your elevation is gonna allow that with any kind of approach. If you're gonna have $1 million bridge, and I just don't think it's practical. It's a great idea. You can't do a grade crossing. They wanted to eliminate that, there's nothing about it.
Well, yeah, but then you would eliminate the one on the other end. Holly.
I don't think they trade that way. I think once they're gone, and they don't want any more. Remember now, we're trying to get high-speed rail. There's competing interests in this.
We're never
I
gonna
just don't
say
think
it.
that's a practical.
Well,
It's a nice idea, but I don't think it's practical.
I think it's something that should be looked at, and Stephanie's
I do too.
offering to help us look at it, and like I say, it makes a lot more sense to enter this road down here. Because, you still got a railroad crossing up
Yeah,
here.
exactly.
So why not have one down here?
There are about 10 homes there, just so you know on that. north
Pardon?
end. There are about 10 homes from this intersection to here. There are about
10,
10 homes
okay.
through there. I'm just guessing, but it's.
Yeah, but there are about
it's more than
100 in
you
Perrin
might
Acres, right?
Well, yeah, but you still, if you close that off, you'd cut all that maintenance down off that road.
Right.
Yeah, the problem with maintaining this road is that it gets
And
all these 75.
I don't think you'd have to have a bridge there, would you, Holly?
Pardon?
You wouldn't have to have a bridge there across that, would you?
I don't think they'd let you put a grade crossing in. Given it.
Don't cost nothing to ask them.
New construction, I don't think, maybe, but I really.
Well, we got one right here. I just think if we put this one right here, it would make a lot more sense. It's something to think about.
It does make sense.
And the other part
You're
of it
still gonna
is,
have to maintain that road all the way up to Lorenzo.
Oh, yeah, but
Yeah, but you take all the traffic off of it, you beat it.
yeah.
Grade it twice a year and you got it.
So it's something to look into.
There's a significant curve on 67 right there also.
yeah,
But the main thing is we don't have to solve all these problems today. All Stephanie's asking us for is just permission to get money that passes through the town, essentially allow it to happen. And this is not the end of that. There are several more steps in this process. We can look at the road situation, and it's probably going to be a year before you're to the point where you're thinking about construction, I'm guessing?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, we have tax credit funding, we have VHCB funding, so there are many applications that we're in the process of. This is the last application for this
Okay.
round. And if all goes well, we'll be looking at, winter of this year, late winter for closing, and then probably early winter of next year, for construction.
I'm still not clear of why the town has to get involved in this application.
That is for VCDP to explain. VCDP has funding through HUD or CDBG, and they funnel it through the townships. I've worked in this sort of arrangement before with the city of Troy over in New York, and we would administer funds for them, but the funds had to be received by the municipality, and they were CDBG funds as well.
Now, this is a federal thing or a state thing? Or a
It's
combination
a
of
federal
both?
that flows to the state, which flows to you, and then to us. So,
And that is available to not just you guys or to anybody?
these funds are available to anybody who wants to apply for them. Whether they are granted is not up to us.
Now,
We are an efficient, effective delivery model for all of this funding, so typically the not-for-profits you see that are housing organizations that are, have some history and reputation in this business end up being priority for funding. Because we work well with the agencies, we understand the guidelines and the restrictions. We understand that we have to maintain these rents and these properties for, 20 years or in perpetuity and keep those rents low and still maintain this. It's not something typically the private sector wants to do.
Now, who determines what's low rent, affordable?
Well, the income limits were posted, so for this one, it's a range of rents and it's a range of incomes on this one. So
And that's determined by what, state of Vermont?
it's determined by the funding sources, basically. So we have tax credits on this project, so they have their own guidelines. We also have VHCB housing revenue bond funds on this, so that allows a higher income bracket. So it's a mix. There is no subsidy on this. There's no Section 8 subsidy. There's no rental subsidy at all.
Unless you rent the Section 8.
If someone had a portable voucher, any landlord's gonna rent to someone with a portable
Yeah.
Section 8 voucher. All private landlords rent to Section 8 tenants. But this has no Section 8 subsidy attached to it. You have to have income and you have to meet the income guidelines and be able to afford the rent. So not only do you have to be, say, under that 22.6 if you're moving into that one bedroom and 50% unit, but you also can't exceed about 35% of your income for rent. So it's a pretty narrow band.
Okay, now if we approve this, and you get the money, and then you decide to take a fast trip to Las Vegas, is the town of Shasberry
Not that much money.
stuck for the money?
Well, I don't have any plans to go to Vegas. Maybe Fiji. No, I'm just kidding.
I didn't mean you personally, I meant the whole group.
No, there are things we're required to do, and we certainly are good stewards of the funds that we're given. We were recipients of these particular funds through Bennington. We've received 4 through Manchester. We've received a couple, Town of Arlington. We just did one for the Battenkill North project. So we're in it for the long haul. We've been here for a long time, and we want to see this project built. And we also have other funders and investors in this project who want to see it built, and it will be built if they have money invested.
Excuse me, but your renters have to agree to standards.
They do,
Yes.
absolutely.
And so you're highly regulated.
We are.
Yeah.
We are. And we're
And renters are
landlords.
required, yeah, to be highly regulated.
We are no smoking. We are, we're pretty strict landlords. We do very regular inspections. We have to enforce not only, the on-paper guidelines, but also the curb appeal of the project and the maintenance of the project. We have to be good stewards of these projects. Part of the upfront cost of these is funding reserves so that we can maintain them for 20 years. We project the needs of this project for 20 years out to ensure that at those low rents, we're going to be able to maintain this. We're going to start off with $200,000 in the bank based on all of this to make sure that we can address in 5 years what's going to go wrong, and in another 5 years what's going to go wrong. And we have to maintain these. We have a full staff of maintenance that takes care of our properties for us in-house, and we do a good job.
Yeah.
If you drive around Bennington, you see some of our projects are really in good shape.
How do you know, if you're going to a well down there, that you're gonna get enough water for
Well,
22 units?
we will find out. That's the answer to
Well,
that.
after it's built, that's a little late.
Well, we're gonna find out before it's built.
In other words, you're gonna do test drills or something.
Yeah, we'd rather have municipal water, as we said.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's just because,
But
I was in construction for 32 years in my own business. And it's just, I find it incomprehensible that you do something like that without knowing you had enough water.
Right, no, we'd make sure we had that before we
Yeah.
went forward with the buildings. It's a bit
But
of a
you
risk
still may
on
try to use
our
it.
dime, so.
You're still trying to get village water if you can.
Yes. Yes, so put in a good word if you know something.
That's above my pay grade, as the word goes.
Yeah, we are. The hope would be ultimately to end up with municipal water, but we can still move the project ahead with a well, and our funders do not tell us that we can't do that. As long as we have flow and it's good
Yeah.
potable water, then we're set.
Ken was joking about you going to Las Vegas, but he asked a question that maybe needs to be clarified, is that the town is not taking any risk by, financial risk by allowing you to receive grant funds.
You are not, no, and any cost that you incur will be repaid to the town. If you have staff time
pretty
spent on
standard.
administration or audit fees.
I don't know, it's just, this bureaucrat stuff, it's about money.
Well, they're
Understanding, kinda.
looking for a responsible agency that is monitored and audited on a regular basis.
Right.
It happens in school funding all the time, that when you apply for a grant, it's gotta go through the supervisory union here. Any of that money, any of that pass-through money has got to go through a responsible organization.
Yeah.
Not that they're not responsible, but they are different than, yeah,
You couldn't just go to a bank and do the same thing.
no.
No.
No. And the thing is that any cost that we incur is automatically applied to that. So used to be a 10% was an administrative cost that was allowed.
It can be, it's allowed, yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
up to 10%,
Up to
I believe,
10%,
that
and
we would be
audit
able to collect
fees,
on
legal
that.
It's just, I don't, it just seems like there's a level of make work for some paper pusher, they don't need to be there.
Well, I've spoken to the other towns that have participated with them too, and the paperwork on our end will be pretty nominal.
Yeah.
What we need to do is provide access to the gear system for them.
Right.
And they'll prepare the documents, and then when we come back for the vote, if the board votes, I hit submit, and that's how it works. Everything else is covered. Any time that I spend on it is billed back through the grant. Anytime anyone in the town spends time on it, gets billed back through the grant. So, from what Keith Squires in Arlington was telling me, it's truly not an extraordinary amount of time.
Right.
They prepare the paperwork, we're just a conduit, because though the federal funding involved, it has to go through the state.
Right. I understand it, but it just seems like there's a level there that's expense for somebody somewhere that don't need to be there. But I'm the guy that says, okay, go do this.
Well, it keeps,
That was 100 years ago, and I'm on a
Some
sink,
red
that's all.
tape. There's definitely some red tape involved in these.
well, I think it's responsibility on the Fed's part that they're not going to give money to anybody. They're going to give it to a municipality that is responsible and established, as opposed to giving it to them.
I understand what you're saying, Tony,
Yeah.
but it still seems like to me,
Yeah.
there's a level there that don't need to be there,
Yeah,
which,
Yeah,
like, we need some more government, I'm sure,
Yeah.
somewhere.
But we do the application, the progress
Right,
reports, the
right.
closeout reports, the requisitions.
Right.
But you actually hit submit on these things.
Like I say, I'm 100 years out of place, so just excuse me.
Any other questions, concerns? Stephanie, tell me exactly what you need from us. The organization that's giving you the grant is VCDB?
VCDP.
VCDP.
I have a contact there that I can send to you. Her name is Cindy Blondin, and she will actually walk whomever the designated town rep is through the process of opening it up, getting us access, and how that all works. She's very helpful. She's been helpful to me when I was new here.
So would it be sufficient for us to pass a motion allowing Shires Housing to apply for a VCDP grant through the town of Shasberry?
Yes.
that's what you're looking for.
Is there such a motion?
I'll move.
Moved by Tony. Do I have a second? I'll second it. Any more discussion?
I'd like to put this off till we had a full board.
We would need to have a meeting, a special meeting, because she needs this by next Monday.
It's just,
If you'll allow me, I did talk to Art about this, and he has many of the same concerns that you did, but he said to me, I would not block it at this point.
he told you that.
He told me that.
Okay.
Joe, you've been quiet. You seem to have some concerns, or?
Yeah, it's just something that I just need to do some research, but yeah.
Do you have any questions for me regarding the project? Do they have any answers?
Not at this moment, no.
Okay.
All right, there's no further discussion. All in favor of allowing Shires Housing to apply for a VCDP grant through the town of Shasberry, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Abstained? So the vote is 2-1-1, and the motion is not agreed to. Okay.
Okay. So what does this do to the project?
Well, we can't apply for these funds in time. The deadline is the 17th of April, and so we would need to publish, and we need to do that before the 26th of March. Public hearing would have to take place on the 11th, and it's just part of the requirement of VCDP. And application due by the 17th for the next board meeting, which is in June. So then we go all the way out to the fall for applications for this.
So
It puts it on hold.
before this project could go forward, there'd be public meetings to discuss the impact and everything else,
Yes,
and that's open to the public. Okay.
it's required.
So all this is just a preliminary funding application,
Right.
which is not cast in cement at all.
Right.
All right. I think that was your concern. That this, by approving this, you're approving of the entire project and go forward.
Yeah.
No, this is one step. This is the beginning step of the funding. You still have public hearings to go through. You still have impact statements.
I would point out that this has got to come before our DRB.
Right. There's all kinds of process involved before you can get to there.
Right. Yeah, this is one small piece of
Yeah.
a very large project.
Joe, you said you wanted to study this more. If we deny this tonight, there's no point in studying it
Okay.
further.
So we're moving ahead with it, right?
No, we just
No,
voted
we
it down.
just voted it down, so unless we restate the motion and vote on it again.
Okay, let's reinstate the motion. Let's do it.
I have a motion from Joe to reconsider the previous motion to allow VCDP to process a grant to Shires Housing through the town of Shasberry. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
So we're reconsidering this with full cognizance that there are several more steps that we can influence, and that if we stop it tonight, it stops dead in its tracks.
And Art said that he had refreshed my memory what you said he,
Art said he would not block it at this point. What is your concern? I mean, you're cognizant of the good things that this brings to the town, right?
right,
And I gotta tell you, it kinda, I feel this one a little bit personally, because I spend probably 20 hours a week of my time going to meetings in Brattleboro on the Wyndham County Economic Development Zone joint zone we're trying to put together, trying to figure out a way to get our economy going in this town. And here's somebody that wants to add $7 million of economy to our town when nobody else will. And all we gotta do is get out of the way. And I'm thinking, I'm gonna play more golf instead of...
how many hearings would they have to have, so that other landlords with this could get involved?
There's plenty.
To, have public comment?
Well, they've got to go through the DRV. Yeah. Which is-
How many more meetings before us?
Stephanie, how many more meetings before this is finalized, do you think?
Well, for this particular one, we'll have a public hearing, but then there will be meetings for the DRB as well.
Now, would this have to go through Act 250?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, all that.
Yeah, this is the beginning.
Now, what if completely what if. That didn't get into North Bennington sewer system. Is it already planned for a on-site septic?
No, we've already been approved for Town of Bennington.
Oh, you've already been approved?
Yeah.
It's already been-
Good.
I guess what I'll just be a little blunt. I think there's a stigma about housing developments, and I think that's where people have caution.
Yeah.
And they proceed with caution. I want to hold up anything that's great, but at the same time, I want what's best for the community and what's healthy for the community. So I'm sorry if I was a little slow on moving ahead.
Not at all, not at all.
No, but excuse me, but that's why I brought up the fact that the workforce housing is highly regulated. I'm very familiar with the fact that it's very regulated as opposed to private landlords who are not regulated. So they do not hesitate to evict, and that's blunt. Yeah, so I just want you to understand that. Plus the fact that this is workforce housing as opposed to low-income housing. And I had the same question asked me a month ago. This is not low-income housing.
Well, and even, the thing is, low-income housing, the problem is, whenever the stigma is that
Yeah.
crime, drugs,
Yeah, oh,
the
absolutely.
domestic disputes, the police, it's things like that. And not to like blow that out of proportion, but really, I think that's the optic.
There's a lot of
that people see.
misinformation about who our residents are.
Yeah,
It's a stereotype. And
Yeah.
It is, it's a stereotype, we've heard it before.
yeah, I agree. I understand.
I'm guilty of it myself. I don't get the warm, fuzzy feeling all the time.
You can't say though, Tori, that all landlords or all housing is not regulated, because it is. You've got lead paint stuff, you've got the
Oh,
whole
yeah.
thing.
Oh, yeah.
So that's,
Yeah.
they're not the only ones that's got regulations.
Yeah.
I used to rent an apartment, and one-bedroom apartment, and I had a family showing up, and not just a family, but it was,
Sure.
a couple families. And they said they would put up petitions, and I said, no. It's a one-bedroom apartment. But it's just amazing, some of the people that would come forward.
Well, they're desperate.
Yeah.
They're really desperate for housing. It is incredibly difficult to get suitable housing for a family. Absolutely. And individuals. That's affordable housing.
And these will be units that are regulated, that
Yeah.
are quality, that are maintained, that are invested in on an ongoing basis. And we are tough landlords. We make sure that our tenants follow the guidelines, or unfortunately, they can't be our tenants.
Yeah, Ken, I wish I had come prepared with statistics from, like I say, 2 or 3 meetings a week I go to on economic development, and the number 2 issue after getting people to come here is where are they going to live? And we have a shortage of housing, and 22 units go in on Perrin Road. We're still going to have a shortage of housing. Your friends are not going to run out of renters because of this.
Well,
It's a big problem.
I just don't want to get the impression or to make it look like that the average run-of-the-mill landlord is being, that we're working against them, I guess. is
Oh,
what I'm
yeah.
trying to
No,
say.
I don't think so.
These guys got 400 units, or will have, if this goes through, of housing in Bennington County. And it's kind of hard to work against that. And what the landlords had told me was that they feel that, almost like they ain't got a chance.
I don't know. There aren't very many vacancies around.
Well, I'm just telling you what I was
Very low
told.
vacancy in the area,
Yeah,
and they have
and-
many more options in terms of who they can rent to.
Yeah.
They can rent to anyone they choose.
After having a business for 32 years, I don't want my government working against me any worse than it already is.
Absolutely. I totally understand.
Some degree of myth about what affordable workforce housing
Yeah.
is in a community in terms of property values,
Yeah.
which are not true. They are typically improve or are neutral. in terms of other people's property values and how it impacts them. So, you know, there are some definite, there's misinformation that is out there. And these are working families. You know, you saw the income range is pretty significant for this one,
Yeah.
you know, because of the funding mix involved.
So the 22,600, that's a combined income?
That is for a one-bedroom unit that's restricted at 50% of median income.
Okay.
So it could be an individual, or it could be two, but it's probably going to be an individual. You know, I don't know who would end up there, but that's the max income for that particular unit. But it can go as high as, you know, a family of four,
Yeah.
175,000 in a three-bedroom unit that's funded by housing revenue well.
That's good money.
Which
Any
is
more
how it should
discussion?
be. There should be a mix.
Sorry.
mix.
Yes.
I didn't hear that
Not
last
yet.
So there
I
should
guess.
be a mix of income in this project. So we want to see more of that. They don't always pencil out, and we feel fortunate that this one did. So we have more of a mix, more of a community feel. Yeah.
Joe, anything else?
No, I'm done.
Ken, anything else?
No.
All in favor of the reconsideration to allow Shires Housing to apply for a VCDP grant through the town of Shasberry, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? So the reconsideration is approved by a vote of 400.
Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you very much.
Good luck.
We'll be seeing
We'll be
more of
seeing
in the
you.
future.
I'll be working on my application.
Very good. Okay, now the boring stuff.
Town garage bid.
Well, not entirely boring. Town garage bid award. So we opened the garage bids on the 9th, I believe it was, and we had 3 bids. They were all very close. I published the numbers on the web. I don't have them in front of me. I'm going to paraphrase them, so don't quote me. We got one from VMS Construction that was about 1.4 million, one from Russell that was just under 1.3, and one from Wright that appeared to be just under 1.2. We turned them over to the architects and the engineers for review, and what they realized about the low bid is that there were qualifications put into the bid that said, we're bidding this low amount, but we're qualifying it. We're saying, we're estimating that we're going to spend $90,000 on gravel, and if there's more than that, it's going to cost more. And there were a couple of things in there like that. In the instructions to the bidders, we had specifically said no qualifications were allowed. They had to put out a number and stand behind it. And so the recommendation from the engineers was to reject the low bid as unresponsive. That lists the 2 middle bids, the 2 other bids. The middle bid is about $40,000 under what we have budgeted for the project, and the high bid is maybe about that much more over what we have budgeted. The recommendation from the engineers and the architect is that we accept the bid from Russell as the lowest responsive bid, which is what we pledged to do in the instructions to bidders and in the RFP. And do you happen to have that final number from Russell there in front of you?
I'm just looking it up now.
Yeah, I should have known that would. I know what it was. Oh, let's see, it's probably in the. This is the letter from Goldstone.
Yeah, I have that right here.
Yep, here we go. Okay, so the number from Russell is $1,318,970. So what I'd be looking for at this point is a motion to accept the bid from Russell Construction for $1,318,970 to act as general contractor for the garage. If I could get a motion in a second, we can discuss it.
Tim,
Motion from Joe.
Tim, the one
Can I
from
get a
right.
second?
I'll second
it from.
I'll second and we can talk.
Okay, all right.
I second it.
What was the additions with the one on right that made it more?
Let me see if they're here.
I have them right here if you'd like.
Do you have them in front of you?
Yeah, I have them
Okay.
right here. They, Wright added a qualifier on the end, which wasn't exactly allowed in our bid proposal. They wanted an allowance for concrete of 93,000, well allowance of 13,000, a material allowance for 2,000, bank run gravel allowance for 25,000. And this is all, was part of their base bid, but what it does is it allows them to bring it
Right.
up over this. And these kind of, and this is the opinion of our architects who are administering this for us and the engineers, that this kind of bid allows them, if we were to take this as a low bid, they can move up to these levels and raise the price, which would then be the second highest bid. So because they added this letter that was qualifying the bid document, which isn't specifically disallowed, they just found it to be unresponsive to our.
So in other words, you're saying the 95,000 they got in there for concrete is extra, essentially?
What they're saying is that they have an allowance in here for $93,000 as part of their bid, but they can go over that. They want to be allowed to go more than the base bid. And the bottom line is, none of this entire additional sheet of paper that they included is permitted in the bid package.
Right.
And therefore, we can't even consider it, no matter what the numbers are on it, and it disqualifies the bid as
Right, because that is supposed to be part of the original bid to begin with.
Correct. So it really doesn't, whatever it says is not even the issue. The issue is that was there.
Right.
So it's just not responsive, and it
Okay.
opens up the bid to all kinds of.
I just couldn't make sure that,
Yep,
that
yep,
was
yep.
clear, that was all.
Any other discussion? So all in favor of accepting Russell's bid of $1,318,970 as the lowest responsible bid for construction of the garage, say aye.
Aye.
So that motion is approved by a vote of 400. And off we go.
That only took 5 years.
It took
But the
9
vote
years.
was-
It was more than 5.
It was 9 years. It was 2009, the select board did a study to figure out how to keep Cole Hall from falling down. And the first thing that engineers did was look across the parking lot and said, that's gonna fall down before this does. And so.
Well, he was wrong on
For
that.
9 years.
You would have been a much younger man.
I don't know what good that would have done.
You've been working on it for 5 years, but it's been a problem for 9.
I wouldn't have been here if it wasn't for that garage.
That's right. Okay, Dave, Cole Hall update?
Okay, we had a discussion with the contractors. What we're going to do, as you all know, is build offices and a storage room in here. We are going to actually frame out the interior here so that instead of trying to put the drop ceiling hanging from the ceiling up here, we're going to build an interior frame in here, and the drop ceiling will hang off beams that go across here.
Smarter.
Yeah, and what it does is it's going to save us money when we were having this discussion. We didn't want to touch really the tin up there. So when the ceiling goes in 50 years, when someone comes up with the money to actually restore this place, it'll be exactly the way it is now. We're just going to put up framework on the edges. We can put the beams across the top, and with the partition walls, the biggest expanse is from that wall to where this wall will be here. But we discussed a way of easily breaching that distance. And we'll get underway as soon as we get some permits from the state. Because my biggest concern is the fire alarm system, which they apparently don't say we have to have, but I want that in writing before we do anything. And then I want to see what kind of we can put in.
Wait, they're saying we don't need a fire alarm system?
Yeah, preliminarily they said that, and,
Do we have one now?
Surprised.
no.
Okay.
Well, it's an issue only because we're gonna have a ceiling
Yeah,
here and a big open space above
Yeah.
it. I thought that would probably be something they would mandate.
Yeah.
They're currently saying no, but when the whole plan is there and, like I said, I kind of wanted it in writing.
yeah.
Has them spoke a lot up there?
Well, yeah, it is, but,
Can I ask you,
Yeah.
if you ask it for ready, but include it as an alternate on your fire protection, just speaking as a firefighter, because if it's not excessive,
Yeah.
you may want to have it there.
we discussed workarounds in it. We've awarded the contract to Eddie Scholl Construction to do the work, but we've had this discussion, if it is an add-on, if the state comes back and says you have to have this fire alarm system, we're gonna put it in clearly. If they don't, we're gonna have a workaround to install some kind of fire alarm system anyway that I think we definitely need to have one myself. I would like to have one that has a little enunciator outside that,
Yeah.
would get people's attention if a fire started in the middle of the night here. I mean, nobody would
I
know.
think you need to get the fire department involved in that, Joe, in them, but, an automatic dialer probably would work better, or, whatever they use today to.
Yeah, possibly.
Like the medical center.
Yeah, possibly. It all depends. Well, it depends. I'm waiting first to see what the state says, and then we'll look at it. Because I, for one, think we should have one myself.
Yeah.
Just-
Also, we have light.
Yeah, we'll have lights. We'll
Light
have,
would
there'll be a whole series of new LED lights, in
Oh,
there,
that-
which would be nice.
Yeah, it's gonna be weird to be in.
You'll actually be in light.
again, yeah.
I may have to wear makeup.
No one in the audience will be blinded sitting with the sun in their eyes, so, it may be a little bit delayed. We were hoping to start April 1st, but, yeah, well, with anything, the state's timing, contracts, and, availability of people, because we don't have the permit from fire safety yet. Eddie might have to push it back. It's whatever, it'll be done. And I think it'll look a million times better. It'll be far more functional than what we have now. Because what we have now is, look around.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like I said, Historic Preservation is very happy with it, because I did follow the restoration guidelines, and we can pull the whole thing down, and you have this back. And this probably would be a beautiful space if anybody had the money
I know.
to do. So many years down the road, you can pull down the walls and it'll be exactly like this.
Yeah.
And we can, I'll keep you up to date as we get the permit back.
All right, item 13, Select Board Liaison listings. Every member of the board has responsibilities to keep the board informed about various other agencies here in our town government and in the government of the surrounding area. These assignments are how they were last year. Does anyone want to change something that they're doing? I highlighted in yellow just a couple of updates I made from last year's list to correct term limits, put Joe's email in there. I added myself back in as the liaison to the health officer. For a while I was the health officer, so we took that out, but I put that back in. If there are no other changes, I'd be looking for a motion to adopt the Select Board Liaison list as edited.
So moved as,
So moved by Ken,
is drawn up.
seconded by Joe, did I hear?
Yes.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. So the edited liaison list is accepted by a vote of 4-0-0.
Can you send me a copy of that?
I can.
Yeah, would you, I thought, you didn't, it wasn't there, right?
It was in the Dropbox.
Oh, okay.
Appointments, we went through our appointment process. We announced the candidates for the various appointed offices, who were the people who are holding those offices now. And we announced them a couple of times. Did we ever receive any public comments about the appointments? So we did not. So at this point, we would be appointing, re-upping members to, in particular, the Developmental Review Board, the Planning Commission, and several of our town officers. So, if without objection, I would suggest a motion to accept all these. Tom Huncherick for a 3-year term to the Developmental Review Board, Chris Panesi to a 3-year term to the Developmental Review Board, Chris Williams to the Planning Commission, a term that goes from 2017 to 2020 because we forgot to do this last year. Animal Control Officer Tracy Mulligan, Bennington County Regional Commissioner Ken Harrington. Last year we took out the Energy Coordinator Ben Hewlett because he had never done anything, but he's done a couple of things this year, so I put that back in there. Health Officer Jackie Myers, Deputy Health Officer Tracy Mulligan, Town Service Officer Jackie Myers, and Tree Warden Jim White. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Tony,
Second.
seconded by Ken, to accept the circulated list of appointments for 2018. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. So these appointments are all approved by a vote of 4-0-0. And open positions, I again remind the public that we have 3 of the 5 members that we need on the Planning Commission. We have 4 of the 5 members that we need on the Developmental Review Board, and none of the alternates that we need on the Developmental Review Board. So I urge anyone who is interested to raise their hand and volunteer to help the town out by serving in those positions. Adoption of meeting schedule is the next annual piece of business. Nothing is changing here. The Select Board meets the first and third Mondays. The Developmental Review Board meets the first and third Wednesdays. Planning Commission second and fourth Tuesday. Recreation Committee fourth Friday. Economic Development meets by announcement. And the Cemetery Committee meets the first Thursday at 8:30 a.m. Is there a motion to approve the meeting schedule?
So moved.
Moved by
Second.
Tony, seconded by Ken. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
That motion is approved 4-0-0, and as our amended rules and procedures indicate, we now can just put this on the web and post it outside, and we don't have to put a formal notice in the banner. Municipal highway grants.
Okay, we put in for the same grants that we put in for last year, to finish East Road to the Bennington border. I think we have a fairly decent chance of getting that grant. The other grant is to replace, Bridge 23 in Shasberry Hollow, which is that culvert we've been talking about for several years now. It doesn't look like they can fund the full amount for that this year, I've already heard, so I think we probably won't be doing that. However, we still have 5 years at least of its expected lifespan, so we're just gonna keep at it. I mean, it needs to be replaced, but it's not.
Does anybody check that? So
Yeah,
that's been checked.
yeah, we have to keep our eye on it. But it's functions well still. And we really absolutely have to have the full $175,000 to move forward. So another couple of years won't hurt our position anyway as we put some more money into the culvert replacement fund. That's the biggest one we're facing at this point. So it's just not doable without the state grant. So we'll see, we apply for it again. But as they go around the county, or District 1, I should say, and they have a whole process of listing these and what town hasn't applied for one in a while, and how close we are to a breaking point with it. And with several years still to go, they might decide to fund something else first. So that's the only two for this year through that branch of the state. And along with that, we need to attest the board that certification of compliance for town, road and bridge standards and network inventory. That needs to be adopted by the board. And the town annual financial plan for town highways, which we do every year here too. It's just what I need to submit to the state. The state already has the grant applications for those two projects. And we just need to get this in.
Right, the certificate of compliance for town road and bridge standards says that we do things according to best practices as defined by the state.
Correct.
Right. All in favor of adopting? Yeah, I guess adopting is the right word. Or agreeing to the certificate of compliance for town road and bridge standards? I guess I need a motion.
You need a motion. So moved.
Moved by
Second.
Tony, seconded by Ken. As we said, this is just a certificate or a statement by us that we follow the state's recommendations in how we do roads. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. So that certificate of compliance is adopted or agreed to by a vote of 400.
That culvert, they still gotta have, that's just a reline, right?
Yeah, it's a slip line replacement. Then
Yeah,
there's a lot of other
the
ways to
basic,
it.
what's
The
there
basic
stays
concrete's
there.
staying. Yeah, otherwise we'd be into, eminent domain,
Oh, I know.
building temporary bridges and everything else. So, which is why you don't want it to go too far.
No.
You want it to be able to be stored in place, not,
I need one sheet of
Well, as long as the bottom don't buckle out, it was over the outlet end anyway. Last time I was down there.
yeah, it's still fine. Well, it's not fine, or we wouldn't be replacing it.
Well, no. I mean, that's quarter inch steel there.
Yeah, it's like,
I'll run the crew to replace it. It's fun.
So the other document that we need to submit is our annual financial plan for town roads that tells the state that we have 20 miles of class 2 roads that we spend $82,000 a year on. 50 miles of class 3 roads that we spend $77,000 on. That we spend $884,000 of town tax funds on the roads. Am I describing this correctly? These numbers that add up to 1 million.
each one is a different part from the top there.
Yeah, are these numbers what we spend, or are these our sources of revenue?
The top part is the sources of revenue.
Okay, I'm sorry. So we have sources of revenue for class 2 roads of 82,000, for class 3 roads of 77,000, and town taxes pay for the rest, which is 885,000, and it comes to a little over $1 million total. It goes on to describe our winter maintenance. We spend $574,000. Non-winter maintenance, we spend $469,000. So that's what we're submitting to the state. This is our financial plan. Is there a motion to approve the financial plan?
So moved.
Moved by Tony,
Second.
seconded by Ken. Any more discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. So the financial plan is agreed to by a vote of 400. Okay, item 17, roadside mowing bids. We bid this out every year?
Every year we bid this out. It's actually good to bid it out every year because different players can come in and out of the business. This isn't without some controversy about what we expect the contractor to do. We have been having the contractor basically mow, not put it up at an angle, not lop apart trees and things like that. It's a necessary function. I think we need to proceed with it this year until we develop some other plan. There's lots of changes going on with how we can work in the right-of-way. The conception that we can do whatever we want in the right-of-way is not correct. So there's a negotiation kind of on how we're going to address this. And there's definitely rules where we're supposed to address the character of the roadway we're working in and take into account how people perceive the road and how they want it to look. We don't exactly, we can for any safety or hazard tree, like Jim Whiteout, which we know we have lots of hazard trees, we can take those down. And those are the things we're really going to focus on this year and probably next year to get through the backlog. Those will go around and we'll take care of separate from this. But this gets into the argument of the right-of-way because now we have like some trees in the right-of-way. Well, they started a long time ago. So right now the proposal before the state is that you can't cut anything in the town right-of-way that's more than 6 inches in diameter. So we can take down a lot of that stuff. The mowing, what he can't get in the mowing, we can go down, cut down a lot of that and cut back some branches. But there has to be a better procedure for doing this than what we have now. We do have a difficulty, the 70 miles of road to do this on, but we have to prioritize and get things correctly. To do what some would like us to do, this contract would most certainly double to close to 45,000, 50,000 for 2 passes in the year, or 1 gigantic limb lopping trip around town. And we just can't do that. We can do a program of really working at it in a systematic way, reduce a lot of these hazard trees and other problems that we have around town. So it's a matter of coordination more than anything else. And that's the way I would like to look at it for now. But we certainly don't have time or the staff to have someone just do this, the simple mowing twice a year over 70 miles of road. Someone has to do it, and this is a pretty cheap alternative to us doing it.
Right. And what you're saying is we're going to put out a mowing bid that is just for mowing?
It's the same one we've been doing for the last 5 years. That hasn't contributed to this growth on the side. That's other issues, and a lot of those issues started years ago, and it's going to take a little while to regain some of that. And a lot of it, people don't want us necessarily to regain. The roads are supposed to be kept to a certain character, and these are a lot of things we have to work through as a team here and decide how we're going to approach things. But this has to get done one way or the other. The roadside mowing, out by White Creek where it starts getting high around the things, I mean, this has to get done. And occasionally we've had to send our guys out with the mower just to knock that back. But for one guy to get on our tractor and do this, it's weeks. It's just not efficient. We get 2 passes for like $20,000. One June and one in, I think I put September. And that'll handle us for the year.
Did the road crew ever look into that literature that we got out of the bush out for the excavator?
Yes, they did, but I don't recall what their response was. I'll check back with you on that.
Because that, especially like 4-quarter intersections and things out in the back roads,
Yeah,
that can do a lot. I mean, you're not gonna do the whole town of it.
yeah.
It's not meant to. But
No, none of it is really, and again, the issue that really has to be surmounted before anything is what are we really doing in the right-of-way? I mean, we have 50 feet, and not even on all roads, but 50 feet, it doesn't mean that from the 24-foot travel lane, you obliterate everything on either side. People don't want that, people don't want to see it. It is a right-of-way over someone else's property, the homeowners. In some cases, the property extends to the center of the road. We just have a right-of-way over it. So, you know, there has to be a little give and take here on how this is done. Hazard trees have to address, but anything over 6 inches, according to the rules that are proposed in Montpelier now, we're supposed to have a tree warden decide what's to be done. So, you know, there's some new moving parts this year, so I just want to maintain what we're doing. And like I said, given Jim's evaluation of the trees last year, and Green Mountain has certainly taken down and Asplin a great number of trees for us, we can have our hands full just dealing with hazard trees for this year. And we'll pick up the rest of this as we develop new plans, especially when we move to the new garage, and we're going to have a different setup for everything, so.
But if you start 6-inch trees, you gotta have somebody to a warden to deal with that. You can get into,
There's
because 6-inch tree will turn into a 12-inch tree a lot quicker than you might think.
Yeah, there's a lot of moving parts, and when you have, you know, 140 miles of each side of the road, it's a lot of things to look at, and it's going to take a while to get around to everything. But you know, if you look at one viewpoint of cutting everything back as far as you can legally, we won't get a half mile in, because it's going to take so long to do that. You know, so at some point you just have to keep moving ahead and keeping the road passable and presentable. And, you know, if we need, you know, there's some areas where you're going to need a snow ditch. You're going to need a place where they're going to be able to have to plow things off. Okay, there's other areas where, you know, other things might come up. But there's lots of roads that have lots of trees on them, that the idea of opening up the roads, you know, for sunlight and everything, that might all be well and good, but the people sure don't want their trees lopped down. So there's a lot of ways to look at this, and there's a lot of ways that this is supposed to be being looked at, and there's a lot of new proposals in Montpelier, so we'll take up what they pass and we'll move on from there. But for now, the roadside, like I said, this part is just someone has to mow this. We don't have the staff to mow it, and it takes a long time. They do it real quick in a couple of weeks, but with 2 guys on very, you know, good tractors, and we just can't spend the time doing
Well,
it.
it's not just the staff, Dave, it's the equipment.
That's what I mean.
That equipment's expensive.
Yeah, you look at
It's
it,
as-
yeah.
It's anything as anything we got.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, when he
In
comes
some
down here.
cases more.
Yeah, when they come in down here with their equipment, you're looking at $500,000 of equipment sitting down
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
And even if we wanted to get into it, we're gonna have to buy something that's gonna sit for
Rest
48
of the year,
weeks.
yeah.
I mean, it doesn't make sense on a number of
No.
levels. So I would just like, you know, permission to put this out, and let's just do this again, and we'll move on
Yeah.
with plans to take care of the rest of the brush on the
Yeah, it's the
side.
same bid request for proposal that we've had in previous
Yeah,
years.
for the last 4 years,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and I agree. We have to, you know, think carefully about how we handle this whole issue of how much we trim, because we have to be respectful of the people whose roads we're on. But that's
But you
kind of
still
a
gotta
different
take
issue
out, you
from,
still gotta take care of safety.
Yeah.
You can't,
we have to take.
you gotta have your
yeah.
intersections and your blind corners, you can't leave them blind.
And that's the
I-
benefit we have, yeah, that even if it's a beautiful tree that someone wants because it's their favorite maple, if it's a hazard tree by legal definition, we get this tree warden come over, he says it's a hazard tree, that's it. You know, but you do the steps,
Yeah.
you know,
Do the steps, and the big step is talking to the landowner.
talking to the landowner.
I think most people will respect that if there's a dangerous tree over the road, even if they love it, and we have to take it down, they'll understand. But if they come home one day from work and the tree is gone and they didn't know anything was gonna happen, we've got an angry landowner on our hands.
Well, yeah, but you could have a tree that maybe just needs to be trimmed, you don't, unless it's dying or something, you don't necessarily have to cut it.
Yeah, not everything has to be locked
Sure.
down.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I agree with Dave, we've got to take a more delicate touch than
Oh,
just
yeah.
saying we can do
Right.
whatever we want to
Yeah.
on this 50-mile strip of road, 50-foot wide strip of road. Okay, so without objection, we'll allow Dave to put out the mowing bid.
Right.
All fuels bid. Every year, we put out a fuel bid, and every year we get back nobody, and then Dave starts calling people up and asking them to bid on fuels.
Yeah. And we get tanks laying around, and people who don't want to pick up the tanks, we play musical tanks. And we have another issue this year, which is another reason why I don't want to go to fuel bids this year, is we're moving in the middle of the year. And we're going from a oil-fired burner to a 3,000-gallon propane system in the new building. We're moving the fuel tank. You know, I think it'd be better to just let this ride, at least for this year, if not for every year. The price difference is, I'm paying pennies on the point of delivery, Albany or Selkirk, on this stuff from Bove, and nothing really ever seems to change, to tell you the truth, and all these bids I've seen over the years. The price is really low now. If the price spikes up and was talking about $4 and $5 a gallon again, yeah, we better go back to real competitive
And
bidding.
good luck
but-
trying to get a bid.
Yeah, and then good luck trying to get a bid anyway,
Too
yeah.
volatile.
Yeah, it is. There's no way to really predict this. That's why they all come in about the same anyway.
Yeah.
And this year, we're really talking about, we need a partner, because as soon as this
Yeah.
starts, as soon as Russell gets going, they have to know who our dealers are, and they have to start talking about where the tanks, who's gonna own the tanks, and,
How about the school? Or did they go through SVSU?
I would believe they've been through the SVSU, or however they do it. Yeah. But, we've had tanks sitting out here that nobody wants to pick up, and,
I think they do it through SVSU. In all the years that I was over there in meetings, I don't remember them discussing fuel bids, so I think it's handled for them.
It used to be by school district.
oh, really?
I seem to remember that. But
Yeah.
we had multiple buildings, so,
Yeah. For the SVSU, like the old BRSU, I would think, do it as a group. You're gonna get a
Yeah,
much better.
absolutely. Are you
You're gonna get a
kidding?
much better deal.
well, maybe, it's a possibility. At some point, but anyway.
But yeah, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah, but, Dave, I take it you would like to stay with GA Bove for the next year?
Yeah, at least for the next year, through the transition, because there are people who we have experience with mechanical issues in rapidly responding to replace things. And we're gonna need somebody with the wherewithal to transition when we have to move. And hopefully, everything will be done on schedule, but we could be having another icy, snowy December when this thing's wrapping up, and we have to move fuel tanks, and we have to have someone who's I can depend on to do it, and the town can.
Right.
I doubt we would save anything. There's nothing going on in the fuel market right now. And like Tony said, when it starts getting volatile and going up, then we're not going to get any bids anyway. So,
All right, is there a motion to continue with GA Bove to provide fuels?
So moved.
Moved by Ken,
Second.
seconded by Tony. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. So that motion is agreed to by a vote of 4-0. Any other business, Dave?
no, that's it for me.
Anybody else?
I mentioned before town meeting about reviewing the road specifications, town takeover roads. I think we gotta go back to that, get it done.
Do you have a piece of road in mind that you're thinking of?
No, it's just that when somebody wants to come up with a development, to have a new development, we got Blueberry Hill, where there's not enough culverts up there, they should have been when the road was built. And I still got a question on Birch Hill as far as the grade on that hill. And it can cost a town a lot of money if we get ourselves a road that isn't built right. Because like Blueberry Hill, you go up there now and try to put in a culvert, see what you're gonna cost you.
I don't know that, I don't think we have a policy on that, and it hasn't happened, I bet, in quite a while.
Yeah, there are standard engineering procedures for this steepness of roads and things like that. But I know what Ken's talking about, and we can work something in to make it so that we don't, and we shouldn't have roads that are beyond a reasonable grade. And they were put in with some convenience in some areas, but they're difficult to maintain, and they're not really to what a standard should be. So, we can investigate that. Ken and I have talked about this, and there are changes we can make to prevent something like what's happened before happening again.
I thought there was a standard.
There
isn't
is
any.
somewhere.
Well, Blueberry Hill, when we got into that problem where the lady didn't want the water running out of her driveway.
Right,
And that was put in before I worked for the town. And that whole road, there's only 4 culverts from the top of that road to the bottom. And when you run that far in between, especially at a grade like that, with that much distance between culverts, you've only got to get one of them plugged, and you could lose the whole damn road in a spring thaw or something. And you just, part of it, Gretchen, is maintenance. You got to make sure them things stay open. But you just can't build a road like that.
Yeah.
Well, it happens so infrequently that we don't have a policy on it, and you'd like to think that when a select board contemplates taking over a road, that they give your concerns due consideration.
Yeah, but I've worked in this stuff 60 years since I was with my dad. I was 12 years old. I was running a loader for down at Daly's, but it's all I know. But you guys don't know that stuff. And it's so easy to slip it by somebody.
if there's no standard, we have nothing to judge it
Right,
by.
and
Absolutely.
that,
Yeah,
if it's nothing more than saying a state engineer has
Yeah.
got to check this road
Yeah.
before the town
Yeah.
accept it. And that may be all you need,
yeah. Yeah,
because like, you take something like Blueberry Hill or Hidden Valley or any of these places where there's a lot of houses, and there's not enough culverts in there, and you decide you need more, and you do need more, then now you're running across somebody's driveway or somebody's lawn. And you're gonna get eminent domain, and you're gonna get
yeah.
all kinds of good stuff that you don't really need.
Yeah, I'm just thinking how to solve that problem. I mean, we could pass a motion that says you have to have a state engineer inspect a road before you take it over with the town, but in 10 years, I don't know if the select board then is going to know that we passed that motion, so.
Well, you gotta make it something that
Part of policy.
before a road can be accepted.
Right.
I think part of it would be, if you're talking about development, it's really something for the DRB to look to where they should incorporate it in the rules.
Yeah,
Because from being on different types of DRBs, when developments come in, you're the ones really negotiating with the developer over how it's supposed to come out. So I don't know, I think it would dovetail better in their area, because it should be they might even know, because they have a couple of engineers on there, the national there are standards for every road imaginable. And it's just really, might be just as simple as you have to match this standard. But it might be something more in their court.
Now that you mentioned DRB, I realize that where that belongs is in the town plan. The town plan should have a statement that says that the town should have roads inspected by certified engineers before they're taken over.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of government and
Yeah.
controlling everything, but it's different to sit on this board. And, because when I was working as highway foreman for the town of Shasberry, Daly's put in Parrot Acres.
yeah, and that's exactly a problem.
I told the selectman then that should be part of that development, they gotta pave that road.
Yeah,
And I was damn near put in front of a firing squad.
yeah, I would think you would be.
But it's, you see it now.
DRV would have regs, wouldn't they?
No, the DRB is the judge, essentially. They take the bylaws and they interpret them in each case. But I think if we put this to the planning commission to see if
Yeah, maybe it should
They
just be in
wanted
the
to-
bylaws.
the planning commission could, the planning commission writes bylaws and asks us to approve them. But also the town plan is where we plan how the town develops, and I think that would be the place to put a clause that says,
It must.
think carefully before you take over a road.
Or, because if you're gonna take over a road, the town plan for that, but also in the subdivision bylaws,
Yeah.
If you're talking about a new development, if you're concerned
Yeah.
about that, it's
Yeah.
gonna have to be in there too.
I'm thinking that you gotta have specifics.
Yeah,
So
it
where do
should
the
be.
specifics go?
There
In
should
the
be
planning?
something in there.
They've gotta be in the planning, right?
Yeah.
Well-
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a little worried about hamstringing future select boards just because, since it's not happened, I'm not sure why would we take over a road?
Because it has happened. We wound up tonight with an issue
You
with,
got Hidden
with
Valley,
Lake Perrin Road.
Parrot Acres, Gloucester Road,
Yeah.
Mountain View Road.
Yeah.
They were all roads that were taken over since the 70s.
And why did before we took them over, they were what, just private roads?
Yeah,
They weren't there.
yeah.
There were no road there.
Or they were private roads done by a developer.
And Calvin built those, Mountain View and Gloucester. And I was highway foreman, and they had specs of what the road had to be for width and how much gravel and everything. And I took the grader the week before they were supposed to be taken over by the town road, and it said you're supposed to have, I think it was 8 or 10 inches of gravel, workable gravel on top of the road. And I took the grader with the Scarifier and painted a liner on there of how many inches of gravel you were supposed to have. And I went up that road, and them boys hadn't put quite a lot of gravel on their roads.
Sure.
They weren't too thrilled to do that time either. But why should the taxpayers of the towns have to put gravel on that road
Right, I agree.
when they were making money from selling
Can
it?
you do some research to find out
Yeah.
where it would ought to go?
Yeah, and I'll talk to Chris and see if that's something that he thinks is,
I think a general statement, but also I think I'm worried about specifics. The road has to meet a certain standard in order for us to.
Well, and also in what you just signed,
Yeah,
we have to meet the state road standards.
Right.
And I know they have a
yeah,
grade.
yeah.
Because Birch Hill was the same thing. It was a development that was planned and the road was taken over by the town.
Wow, I really thought there was a
all
standard.
right, well, I'm going to assign to Dave, Tim, and Ken to looking into how to regulate taking over new roads.
I think I thought we already had specs, don't we?
Yeah, let me look into the whole
Yeah,
thing. Yeah.
I think because it's gonna be so many feet wide, but it doesn't. The last one I saw didn't have anything on culvert size or the distance between them.
Right, that's important.
And it's like, now the other thing you gotta look at, you talk about paving a road, town of Bennington, I don't know, 3-4 years ago, they turned a blacktop road into a dirt road. Because it cost so much money to maintain the road.
Yeah, well, we did that on
Yeah.
Right, we did that.
Lake Shasbury Road.
Yeah.
We did the same thing.
Yeah.
All right, we'll look into that. Reviewing action items, going to put the amended rules and procedures for the select board onto the web. I'm going to send the liaison list to Dave, and Dave, Tim, and Ken are going to look into how to regulate when the town takes over new roads. I guess Stephanie will probably talk to you about the procedures for
Oh, yeah, that's
getting
easy.
that grant thing in place.
Yeah, I know the person she's talking about.
Okay.
And
Okay, so
I
you know
know
what to
Anita
do
up there. It's the same program we ran for the MPG grant, so it's basically whatever, no, I forgot her name, but the woman who does the data stuff up there. It's like Hitbox A, B, and set her up, set Stephanie up with them. And they've dealt with Stephanie, so it'll be pretty simple to set up.
Okay.
I'm not really anticipating this taking up much time. They're doing all the work. I might do a little data entry and, with the board's permission, at some point hit submit, and that's, they are truly doing the work. It's
Yeah.
not gonna be a big production for me.
Okay. Good. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We stand adjourned. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.